what is the value of building a strategic narrative? What is in it for you? Well, my simple answer, my most straightforward answer is narrative power. But that answer hasn't been so straightforward and so short and clear and concise in the past years or so. It's a question that many entrepreneurs I've asked that I try to explore, to answer. It's a question that most people on my email list, when you join my email list, you'll have a quick question. And that's I ask what is most interesting to you to explore through the email list. And most people say, what is a strategic narrative and why should I care? Why does this matter? So as of today, again, my clearest, most straightforward answer is narrative power. It's a term that I came across as I was doing more research on who else uses the power of narrative as a way to shift the way people think and act besides the business community. And narrative power is actually a term that is well defined and somewhat widely used in the social change community, in the social change field. There are organizations, there are people that have explored it, defined it, there are methods around it. And what is interesting for our context of business here is that they define it in a way that is very applicable to business, entrepreneurship, innovation, strategy, and leadership, which are the themes of this YouTube channel, of my YouTube channel here, or of this video, of the things that I explore. So what is the definition of narrative power? Narrative power is the ability to dictate norms and values in society. That's the definition for people who do narrative change for the sake of social change, social justice. And it's a definition that you will be able to look up online. There are many articles about it. So in the context of strategic narrative, my belief is that we do the same. We change norms, we change values, we change beliefs as soon as we are trying to innovate. So let me explain. Say you have a product that is radically evolving the quality or the way we do something. Say you have a new application for a medical procedure. I'm just picking a random example here. And this device, this medical procedure, is therefore going to be different. So that's the invention part of innovation. But invention doesn't mean that people are going to adopt it. It doesn't mean that your market is going to adopt it. What you're going to have to do is to present it, to explain it to the market and sell it to the market. And hopefully the market will show commitment and adoption for this new technology. And that requires a change in the way people think and do things. That requires for them to change their beliefs. And you're going to do this through different methods. You're going to prove them. You're going to be certified, say, because you're in the healthcare and medical field. There's lots of certifications to go through. And therefore, what you're going to need for your invention to turn into innovation is work on the adoption piece. What you're going to need is to help people change the way they think and they act around their specific medical procedure here. And that is called changing the narrative. And that's where you need narrative power, the ability to dictate new norms and values in your market, in your industry. See the parallel here? For people who do social justice, it's the same ability, but to impact society. And for people who do innovation, market disruption, call it, it's the ability to impact, to dictate, to create new values and new norms. So that is why you should really pay attention to narrative building in the context of entrepreneurship. Now, one of the things that Isabelle Crabtree-Condor, to quote her here in her book Narrative Power, Collective Action, says, is that I'll read the quote I have here in front of me for you. Narratives are a form of power that can mobilize and connect, as well as divide and isolate. Mobilize and connect, as well as divide and isolate. And clearly, if you look around, some narratives about society have the power to mobilize, gather, bring people together, and some others have the power to divide us. For instance, in the United States, politics has many narratives, many divisive narratives that have grown in proportion in impact in the recent years. If I look at the business community, there are also many mobilizing narratives and maybe divisive narratives. So an example of a mobilizing narrative is the narrative around sustainability. That's a mobilizing narrative. But it also, to be honest, it also has had a divisive effect. Some people don't agree that is as important as some others. So the narrative around sustainability, the narrative around climate change and building more sustainable companies, more green companies, he is very mobilizing and divisive as well. So I bring this up because when you use narrative power for the sake of innovation and transformation in your market, industry, with your customers, in your environment, it's something that it's the first thing that you need to be aware of. It's the first flip that needs to happen is, why would you want to build narrative power through the process of strategic narrative? Be very clear about this. And here is a very simple framework to make this decision. Why would you care for this? So basically, narrative powers has two facets, and these are the two facets that I see all the time. So this is not something I read in the social justice literature. This is how I have really seen, by experience, this phenomenon work. There are two powers to a narrative. The first one is a normalizing power, and the second one is a transformative power. And that's why I talk about strategic narrative being most suited for transformative companies who want to transform either their industry, their customers, or their environment, meaning the planet or society. So let me go over both powers here. Number one, normalizing power. I define normalizing narrative power as the ability to institutionalize organizational and market norms and values. So make them normal, make them established. So in that context, and in general, narratives tell us how to do something. Narratives guide us to think about certain things in a certain way. They are very helpful because if we have to think less, when we need to think fast, we make more accurate decisions. In fact, our brain uses less energy, and it's a quick response to things that don't require a new process, right? So it's very good when you have technical solutions that require no adaptation, like technical solutions that are well known, procedures. Think about someone using a machine. There is things that have been so well documented and so well standardized that the narrative around the machine is really a normalizing narrative. I want to use an example for you. So let's do a quick thought exercise. What's the first thing that you do when you get in your car to drive it? Well, one thing you should do is to fasten your seatbelt, right? It's the first thing that you should do. And the narrative around the seatbelt is now a normalized narrative for most part, because I've read that in some countries it's still not mandatory, and still in the countries where the 3-point seatbelt is mandatory, still some people don't use it. So let's agree on the fact that it's a mostly fully normalized narrative, right? But in the beginning, when Volvo in 1959 created the 3-point seatbelt, they were inventing something new, and they wanted every other car manufacturer to actually adopt it. They wanted everyone to adopt their invention, and what they did is that they even their patent was royalty free. So just to help everyone, that's what they did. But didn't happen this way. It took them time before it was normalized. Now it is normalized. And if you think about it, that's an example of a I'm focusing on a product normalized narrative. But if you look at inside your company, what are some of the things that could be important to normalize? What are some of the norms that are essential for your companies to run? Well, there are many. The way you work, the way you collaborate, the way you sell and engage with clients, the way you recruit, you hire, the way you develop products, the way you do marketing, the way you lead. All of these create a system of stories, a system of practices and norms that build your narrative. And so in that regard, narrative power helps you stabilize, what helps you over time build layers of understanding and coordination in your organization. So that's one side of a narrative, and that's hopefully that it's clear to you now when you should really focus on that side of the narrative, which is to normalize things. So here's an example that I just thought about. We just merged, we just acquired a company, we just changed something very very significant within our organization. And so hopefully our narrative now becomes normalized, becomes normal again. But we know that normality is not forever. It's not going to take a long time before things get changed again. So again, the first type of narrative power is normalizing narrative power. The second type of narrative power is transformative power. So I define transformative power, transformative narrative power as the ability to transform organizations and market norms and values. And that's when it becomes really powerful and crucial and important if your plan is to say disrupt. I hear and I see so many companies, so many CEOs, entrepreneurs say, we are a disruptive company. We want to disrupt the way we've done this, or we want to disrupt the market, disrupt this technology segment. And for sure, they have probably a product or a service that has high probability to completely transform the way customers operate. But what they miss that is essential, is that they don't have the narrative power to help their customers, their investors, their partners, suppliers, their teams go through that change. They don't have the support infrastructure to help these people understand what really this transformation is about. They don't have the narrative power to guide that transition, right? Notice here that I really see transformation in the market, inside, outside, as a change process, right? You can't just expect people to go, oh my gosh, you invented a new kind of phone. It's so cool. I'm just going to try it right away. There are different phases. There are different phases. I have other videos about the process that explain that for an adoption to be successful in the market, well, people first of all need to be in contact with why this is helpful, why this transformation is going to benefit them. They need to understand it. They need to start believing in it, and they need to start experimenting with it and then finally adopting it. But at each stage, there are risks for them to drop the process and just reject the adoption here. So transformative narrative power helps you support your community of stakeholders through those phases, through the phases that I just walked you through. When a narrative is institutionalized, it's set, it may become harmful. Here is an example. It may become harmful for the economy, for the planet, for society. A narrative that many people, including me, find harmful these days is planetary resources are infinite. Yep, we can grow, we can consume, we can drill as much as we want. It's infinite. Well, that was a narrative that started maybe a century, 2 centuries, or it's a very, very old narrative that we are now realizing is very detrimental to the planet. No, our resources are not infinite. We have to we have to be conscious about this. There's something we need to do about this. So that narrative that contributed to so much innovation, so much progress now has become obsolete. It's become harmful. It's time to transform it. It's time to turn it into, it's time maybe to say, okay, that's over. We can't think like that anymore. We have to recycle, we have to reuse, we have to, I can't forget what there are 3 R's: recycle, reuse. Anyways, we have to do something about it. We can't operate this way anymore. It's time to create, it's time to construct a more transformative narrative so that we can transition, we can change, we can now build products, services, we can innovate with a narrative that makes sense for the planet, not one that will kill the planet. So that's an example of when you might want to use a transformative narrative and when you might want to use transformative narrative power. What's the value of transformative narrative power then? What are the things, what is it helpful for? Well, I just talked about innovation, but another piece is your leadership. If you reframe people's understanding about why you see a transformation around us, it elevates you to closer to the status of moral authority. It makes you visionary, sorry. And it makes you visionary because what you're doing is you're trying to give people visibility. You give them a vision for what's about to happen. So in that aspect, transformative narrative power is really, really powerful for this. So that's something you want to practice, is to build a narrative around a transformation that will help guide people through changes, complicated challenges, complicated problems for which we don't have solutions yet. Another piece is differentiation, right? Remember the quote from Isabel Crabtree, that author I just named a few minutes ago. Narratives are very mobilizing, but they are also very divisive. They divide people. And one of the types of divisions that entrepreneurs love and value, that's what it is: differentiation, right? When you have a narrative that sets you apart, that divides you from the rest of the crowd, you increase your chances of success. Some people make up transformative narrative power just for the sake of differentiation, but they don't provide differentiation. What they do and the way they think is just the same as everyone. And I would warn you not to do that, because that just backfires. It just comes back at them. So maybe that's something you want to think about. But in our case, a transformative narrative and the power that comes with it will really, really increase your chances of differentiation in the market. So especially if the market is crowded and the market is really saturated, what is the next narrative that you could build so that your company continues to exist, if that's what you want to do. And finally, another piece for why it matters and what's the value here is mobilization, right? A narrative will invite people, will make them participants. And especially a transformative narrative will typically tell them, look, we need to change here. We need to transition, but we don't have all the answers yet. We have some ideas, we have some pieces of the puzzle, we have some products, but it's up to you to try these products. It's up to you to experiment and to give us feedback. So in a way, you can hear in that example that I'm talking about a conversation, and narratives are conversations. Really, there are systems of conversations, of point of views, of mindsets. There are those meta systems comprised of thousands of stories. So that's the last piece here. Transformative narrative power is really critical if you want to mobilize people to transition to a new way of doing things, a new paradigm, and if your plan is to build a new type of companies, a transformative companies. Okay, so all of that to share with you what I mean by narrative power and how I interpret it in the context of business, entrepreneurship, innovative companies, transformative companies. I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful that the people who do social change took the time to write, to publish, to reframe, to organize the way they see the transformation that they bring to their communities, and we're able to define it and to give it a term. Because when you have a term like this, it creates a label, it creates a handle, it creates a shortcut for people to refer to what exactly you're talking about. And in my case, in the case of MetaHelm, this might very well be the way I name my strategic narrative going forward. Narrative power. Narrative power. It's something that I intend to use in most of the offers that I have here for you. I've already integrated in my content for my upcoming courses, Strategic Narrative Essentials. It's upcoming, but it's actually happening on a regular basis now. Look it up on my website, metahelm.com. I'm also planning on using narrative power to clearly identify what is it that I'm measuring when I do a diagnostic assessment. I have a diagnostic assessment, a full comprehensive diagnostic assessment that I do with one-on-one consulting clients. And I am about to release a new short version, a free version for you to test what it looks like. And you will be able to measure the narrative power that you're building for your company. That's it. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to try new ideas with you. And as always, please comment, give me feedback. I'm really looking forward to hearing how this concept, how this definition resonates with you, and seeing how helpful it is. Thank you so much.